What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another vlog. So currently we are on the terrace. Pretty good view from up here, very high up. As you can see, it goes all the way around. And I thought it would be a very good time to do a Q&A, reason being we haven't done one in such a long time. I think it's been maybe a few months, and I think another reason being is because, one, the weather here is not too good at the moment. It's sort of been raining on and off, so I can't really do dunking or things like that. And I'm also a little bit sick, so it's a bit hard for me to train. I might be going to the gym later on today. If I do, I will definitely record that. But for now, we're just going to get into a Q&A. Pretty loose, but try not to keep it too long. Let's get into it. Okay, so some of these questions will be from questions that I've received on Instagram. So if you sent me a DM on Instagram, then you might see your question pop up. Others are sort of ones that I've gotten asked a lot, like pretty frequently, maybe just in person or things like that. And some I just sort of made up because I think they're very good topics and worth talking about. So let's get into it. Let me get these questions up. How many days should you rest between dunk sessions? So this sort of depends and varies among the individual. Some people do more dunk sessions in a week compared to others. Some might do one. Some can get away with doing 3 to 4 dunk sessions a week. In rare instances, some people can even dunk every single day. So it sort of depends, and it also depends because different people recover faster than others. Some people can handle more training and more load compared to others, so it really just depends. You sort of have to do a bit of trial and error, figure out after a while what suits your body the best, what sort of style of training, not sort of style of training, but what sort of routine fits you the best. For me, I've sort of figured out that I can't really do more than 2 dunk sessions a week. If I do any more than 2, then I just get very achy in both my muscles, my joints, and my performance tends to go down. So I stick to doing 2 dunk sessions a week and trying to maybe do 1 at the start of the week and 1 near the end of the week. That way, between those 2 dunk sessions, I've got a whole bunch of time to sort of just recover and make sure that when I come to that next dunk session, that my muscles and everything like that is fully prepared. Are bands good tools for jumping higher? Definitely. I really am an advocate of using different types of accommodating resistance like bands and chains. I don't really use chains as much because I don't have access to them in my gym, but bands I do use. I use them mainly in the squat for a dynamic effort sort of style of training, and I also use them occasionally for dynamic effort style deadlifts. The reason being why I really like bands is because it makes you exert more force into the bar. So for example, if you were just squatting a certain amount of weight without the band, then you can sort of still do it slowly. But with the band, the minimum effort you need, just the bare minimum, just to sort of get the weight up, makes you apply more force than usual. And this is pretty much increasing our rate of force, otherwise known as our rate of force development. So the more force we can apply into that bar, the higher we are going to jump essentially. So that's a major reason why I like bands as a tool for jumping higher. It's very common in the conjugate method style of training. If you're a powerlifter, you probably heard of that before. And another reason they're really good is because it's just a different type of stimulus you're introducing your body to, keeping your body guessing and letting it grow stronger, not just adapt to the same stimulus. What are my top 3 vertical jump strength exercises? So I have a top 2 in terms of strength exercises, and that would be the squat and the deadlift. Reason being is just because their motion is so specific to jumping, and they mimic the same movement as well as use the same muscles. Both work on the posterior chain, quads, glutes, hamstrings, core, so they all have a major impact in jumping. That's why I really like the squat and the deadlift. In terms of a third one, I don't really have it. If I had to say, I would say, even though this is more of a sort of explosive power movement, I would say a power clean. Reason being is literally working on your power, mimicking the movement of jumping more than anything. And if I really had to pick just one exercise I could do for the rest of my life to improve my vertical, then I would probably pick power cleans, because they are probably going to be the most rewarding and have the most direct translation to your vertical compared to something like a squat or a deadlift. This question now is something I've gotten from a lot of people, and that's how to maximize your off-vert vertical jump, so without a run up, just straight off the vert. And one thing I really tell people when it comes to maximizing your off-vert is think about what separates just your off-vert and your normal run-up, right? So the only difference is with a run-up you get to include speed into it, which will help increase your vertical jump. So because you don't have the speed in this off-vert jump, you have to rely more plainly on force. So what you got to do then is include things in your training which will help you improve your force. So these movements in the gym, 2-foot movements such as squats, deadlifts, even two-legged plyo exercises, and things like that. And another thing is to just practice doing it. A lot of people will do it with a run up, but every now and then they'll only practice their off-vert every now and then. So the two things is increasing your force, because that's what will help, that's what is needed to increase that off-vert jump, and that is improved by getting in the weight room, doing your plyos. And the second thing is just practicing it more until you sort of become more familiar with it. How often should I max out my lifts? Now this is something I really want to talk about, and this is like the problem a lot of people face, and that's just lifting heavy too often. A lot of people think the more you're doing heavier lifts, doing grinder reps, doing 1 rep max on squat, bench, deadlift, things like that, the stronger you're going to become, and that's not true at all. To actually become strong, a majority of your training, like in my opinion, and a lot of elite lifters have said this, is a sub-maximal approach to your training. And this means just training between approximately 55 and 70% of your 1 rep max. And the reason being is because in that sort of percent range, you're able to work on form, able to get clean reps, and that way you're building technique, you're enforcing good motor patterns, and you're increasing your strength. But if you lift too heavy, then you're more testing your strength rather than building it. And another thing with lifting too heavy is it's going to put so much stress on, one, your CNS, so you're always going to be fried when you're jumping, and two, it's going to put so much stress on your joints and your muscles, and you're more likely to get an injury. So I would say a majority of your training should be focused on sub-maximal between 55 and 75% of your 1 rep max, and then maybe towards the end of your program, if you're doing a lifting program, then you can get into a peak where it starts to go a little bit heavier. Okay, last question is advice for working on the scoop dunk. Now, scoop dunk, I included this question because I found it one of the hardest dunks to do, and the reason being is just so many different cues you got to keep in your mind when you're doing it. For me personally, I just broke it down bit by bit. First, I sort of perfected the alley. I tried to get the alley just besides the ring, so I can sort of just collect it as I am jumping. The second thing is when to sort of collect the ball. Is it when you're on the floor, when you're at your peak, when you're just leaving the floor? What I found for me is just as I'm leaving the floor, I start to turn, and then I sort of scoop it when my hand's sort of in level with the ball. And then from there I can just sort of 360 it, and it ends up being in line because I'm throwing it from the side of the ring. However, this is just what works for me. It's going to be, again, different for individuals because different people have different jumps. Some could grab it at the peak, some can have to grab it a bit sooner. So it just really depends, but what I just said is what really works for me. Alright guys, that is the end of the Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's been a while since we've done one, so I thought we should do one. Good view in the background as well. So I will see you guys next clip. Peace.